me to come and help you?
Part 3, Day 2. This section here
Okay.
from Poble's Corner through to Dalhousie Springs or up to Mount Dare.
Let's go catch Chris.
This is the hardest section of the
Slow
Simpson Crossing.
bastard.
As you can see already, there's a lot more whoops. Now, not deep whoops, but although this one's deep, but
Shit.
nonetheless relentless whoops. And not too many dunes at the beginning. So the first 50 to 100 kilometers, it's still quite flat, but just undulating dunes over and over and over and over. And I found that this really was a lot more fatiguing than the first day. Now, because of my subpar stock suspension, I really had to stand. I couldn't just sit. I could feel my weight sitting on the back just punishing the suspension even more. I really had to stand up and lean forward and try and absorb some of the bumps through my legs. So I felt I was getting a lot more tired and a lot quicker during the second day. And as you can see, the terrain's also changed now. So instead of long straights going up a big dune and coming back down, you're really snaking through the desert now. So you're really having to try and keep your bike in a specific rut or on a line while taking the whoops up and down, up and down. And it definitely was fun and makes the trip different, knowing that it's not the same terrain. But yeah, just a heads up that this section, if you're doing east to west, the second day will be harder. If you're doing west to east, the first day, in my opinion, will be the harder day. It's a lot harder to get to those higher
So many
speeds.
whoops. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm so lucky. Shit. Oh shit. Fuck. What is this?
And that there confirms what I'm saying. As much as I love the crossing, this part is testing me a little
fuck.
bit.
Bottom of the suspension now. Why don't you stand up, you idiot?
But it's also worth mentioning at this point the bike was a lot lighter than the first day.
Jump, come on.
So we'd used at least 10 litres of fuel, probably closer to 14, and we'd used at least 6 litres of water. So we dropped probably about 15 kilograms off the bike.
Yep. Yeah.
Now, we didn't leave particularly early on this day either. This was another day where we left at about 10 o'clock, and we really regretted later on in the day. You'll end up seeing why, but
Oh, whoop, city, bitch.
just some really deep whoops around this section as well. It was just a bit of a late night and just packing up everything. We were just stupid. We should have left at 8 o'clock on the dot. We lost 2 extra hours of daylight, and it comes back to bite us.
Fresh dingo tracks. Alright. Look at this. Oh shit! That was a deep one. That was a deep itch. Oh fuck. Look at
Needless to say, I was getting a bit over the whoops, but luckily there were some dried up lake beds that were coming our way. And this was a nice little break. Could just sit down and just pin the throttle.
Oh yes, look at this. Come on. Oh baby.
Nice departure from all the whoops.
Open her up.
Now, to my point before where it would come back and bite us, we had two issues on the second day. Firstly, I got a second flat. Now, one thing I didn't mention was when we fixed the flat the night before, we checked the tube and we couldn't actually find any hole in the tube. We inflated it, left it there for a while, squeezed it. We couldn't hear anything. We couldn't hear any slow leaks, nothing. But anyway, we put a new tube in and kept that tube as a spare. And when we stopped, when I realized I had a flat here, we were coming to stop for a bit of a break anyway. And as I was taking the valve core out, something just didn't feel right. Something just didn't feel right there. And so I cleaned it out, blew it out, put it back in. And I suppose a little bit of me as well was thinking, you know what, the tube last night was fine. I can't be bothered changing a whole tire again. Let me just, fingers crossed, if I pump this up, it'll hold. And somehow, magically, that tube held. I never had to touch it again for the whole trip, all the way back to Birdsville. So something really strange there. I think that was going on with that valve core. And I don't actually think I needed to change the tube the first time anyway. The second issue we had was Chris's bike. His lean sensor we thought was acting up. His bike would every now and then just cut out. And it could also have been to overheating. But what we did was we stopped and we carried a little spare. So we just changed the lean sensor out. We'd had some issues with it in the past ride in the high country with his bike. So it may have been the half hour or so the bike was cooling down, or it may have just been the lean angle sensor, but we ended up being okay and needed no other further repairs to his bike. But regardless, we lost another half hour there.
You want me to come and help you?
And here we have one of Chris's falls, the only one I caught on camera. This one was a nice fall.
Oh, that held in then well.
Yeah, we took the hard route up.
This was just a little low-speed drop, nothing serious. But one of the falls he had previous to this was a bit more scary. Whenever I was in front, I'd always look back, every minute or so, just to check I could see Chris in the distance. And I couldn't see him anymore. So I turned around, rode back about 2 minutes, and the bike had fallen on top of him down at crest. So the fuel tank was on his chest and the wheels were further up in the air. And he had his hand on the fuel tank holding his fuel cap so the fuel wouldn't drop onto him. He had lost his one-way valve at some point. Now, in that situation, if you're on your own, or if I just kept riding and I wasn't trying to pay attention on what he was doing and how he was, that could have gone really bad. So that's just another tip. If you are riding with people, just keep an eye on each other and think about the other riders as well as yourself, because in the end it's a dangerous place as well as fun and beautiful. Things can go wrong. But anyway, the late starting at 10 o'clock, my fake news puncture and Chris's lean angle sensor cut into our time considerably, and towards the end of the day, the sunlight was really hitting our eyes. Trying to crest the dunes, we couldn't see anything because the sun was in our eyes. So we decided to make a call, and instead of pushing on and putting ourselves at risk, we just decided, hey, let's just camp a second night and then just smash out the extra 100 kilometers at the end of the day, the next day, day number 3. So these photos here are just a few photos of our campsite. We had a dingo come and greet us, which was kind of scary and cool at the same time. And it was so peaceful up there just on this dune by ourselves. A bit cold as well because there wasn't much firewood around, but nonetheless a nice experience up there. And it allowed us just to rest up for the third day for us to get to Mount Dare and then make our way up to the Finke Desert Race.